Hi everyone, and thank you for joining me on my new YouTube channel, Teaching in Tiaras. Today's video is going to be a kind of like a get to know the teacher video. Before I start posting a bunch of other ones, I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to get to know me as a teacher. And so without further ado, I'm just going to kind of tell you all a little bit about myself in a series of a couple questions that I've made up, and I've watched a bunch of other YouTubers do the same thing, and so I've kind of borrowed questions from their get to know you teacher videos. So here we go. So my name is Jordan Goddard, and I am a third grade teacher. I just finished my third year of teaching third grade, so 3-3, kind of exciting. I am beginning my fourth year teaching this August, teaching the same grade, third grade. I honestly can't imagine teaching any other grade at this point because I just love third grade so much. So the subjects that I have taught, I've taught all of them, from science and social studies to reading and writing and math. I taught all of them in my first year teaching, and then my second and third years my school became departmentalized, and I am now officially the reading and social studies teacher, and I really enjoy teaching those subjects. One, because reading is really challenging for me to teach. I love reading so much and making sure that I am kind of staying up to date with like the latest and greatest practices for teaching reading is something that I really enjoy. And I'm a huge patriot, like American patriot is what I'm talking about. And so I really love teaching social studies. I like making kind of an otherwise could be really boring and dry subject something that's really exciting. So I teach in a very urban school district, and I'm very fortunate to teach there because the school that I teach at is really, really awesome. It's undergone a lot of changes in the 3 years that I have been there. We've undergone changes in administration. I've had 3 principals in the 3 years that I have been there, and finally we are basically pretty solid. The principal that we currently have now is a huge advocate for basically the students, obviously, and the teachers as well. She helps us get what we need, and we're really lucky to have her. And our school has a lot of labels. Our school is a very, very small school. We only serve about 240 students, and so our class sizes, classes are pretty much average. We just don't have that many teachers for each subject or each grade. So our school is officially a green school, yay. Our school is also a Spanish dual language school, so a lot of our grade levels get science and math taught in all Spanish. We're not an immersion school. We don't teach everything in Spanish, but we are a dual language school for Spanish. We are also an E-GATE school, which means Excellence in Gifted and Talented Education School. We received that award in 2013 after kind of like this long process, and I'm one of the talented and gifted teachers as well. So I think everybody in grades 3, 4, and 5 who are departmentalized now have to be gifted and talented certified, got to take a class and stuff like that. So that is something that we're really proud of as well. And we are also on the way to becoming an official arts integration school. We absolutely at our school love arts integration, and I'm really excited because I'm actually presenting on arts integration strategies at the Maryland Gifted and Talented Education Conference. It's like a state conference in October, so I'm really excited about that. So those are just a couple details about me and my school. So on to the next question. So the next question, how did I become a teacher, is actually something that I'm always really interested to hear other people's stories about. I've gone on YouTube and I've listened to some of my coworkers and their amazing stories on how they decided to, basically answer the calling that is teaching. And mine's a little bit different. Normally you run into a lot of teachers that, they've worked at summer camps, they've worked at daycares, they've done a lot of things with children to begin with, and I had none of those things. I had no desire to ever work at a summer camp. I had no desire to work at like an early learning center or anything like that. In fact, when I went to the University of Maryland, which was my college that I graduated from, I went in as a broadcast journalism major. I wanted to be on television. I wanted to be reporting the news. And once I got there, I probably made it about 3 weeks into that program, and I really realized this is not for me whatsoever. And I just realized that kind of it's just not for me. I'll just leave it at that. And so I immediately switched out of that major and into just a kind of like a generic major, communications. I thought, okay, I could probably do a lot with this, but as I was going forward with the communications major, I realized it might be a little bit too broad for me. So I switched into something that's a little bit more focused. And so I switched into being a linguistics major. So linguistics is the study of language, and I really, really love language, which is part of the reason that I like teaching reading so much. But linguistics, again, I said, okay, what am I going to do with this? I mean, I could probably work for the government maybe, but that's not the direction that I wanted to travel whatsoever. And so I was kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place for a little bit, didn't know where I wanted to go with the majors that I was kind of experimenting with. And it just so happens that the summer before my junior year of college, I got into contact with the kind of like the inspiration for becoming a teacher, and that was my own 5th grade teacher. Her name is Mrs. Cox, and I really admired her, and I really admired her teaching style, which I'll kind of talk about in a different question. But I spoke with her, I emailed back and forth with her, and I even met with her, and she just kind of inspired me to pursue that as a direction. It's kind of hard to say, oh, well, this is the one thing that she said, or this was the moment where I decided that I wanted to try teaching, or at least try education as a major, but she was just kind of the backbone of that. And so immediately that summer, after some difficulty, I switched into the elementary education major. I was pretty behind in my credits, so I did have to take some winter classes, which was really annoying, but I did get caught up and I did graduate on time with my elementary education degree, Master of Science in Elementary Ed from the University of Maryland. I found, unfortunately, and this is not knocking my college preparation program because I feel like this is kind of the case with a lot of college prep programs, I feel like I didn't learn anything. So when I say that, I really mean that teaching is just a job where you build your ship while it is sinking as you are teaching in your very first year. And I do not think that college preparation programs can adequately prepare you for what you are about to experience in a completely different environment than, let's say, what you do your student teaching in. I had a great student teaching experience with a relatively young teacher. She had a lot of energy. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the school. It was a lot of fun. But when I got into my school, I just found that everything was so different. You know, I chose a couple ideas to kind of run with my from my student teaching experience, but all in all, everything changed. And so I really feel like, again, it's not the college's fault. I really just feel like I learned the most in that first year of teaching. So that's kind of my adventure and how I decided to become a teacher and why I became a teacher. Right now, I can't imagine doing anything else with my life. My principal, it was funny, I had my final evaluation a couple weeks ago, and she's like, I'm looking forward to seeing you become like a reading specialist or an administrator or something. And I said, no, I really have no desire to do any of that. So now that I'm really into teaching, I honestly can't imagine doing anything else with my life whatsoever. So as far as continuing education, my excuse me, just getting over a cold. My continuing education looks like this. I have applied and been accepted to Western Governors University. It's an online university, and I will be pursuing my master's degree in education this coming September. September 1st is my very first class. So I have told a lot of people that that's where I've been accepted, and they're like, I don't know where that is. And I said, I know you've never heard of it, but actually it was really funny. I was watching a webinar the other day, and their little, the person's biography was like Western Governors University. So I said, it can't be that uncommon. So if you've ever been there, if you ever heard of it, leave me a comment below. So I'm really excited about that, and I do plan to get my PhD eventually, and I also do plan to become a National Board Certified Teacher eventually. All of those things kind of have to come into play eventually. So that's the answer to that question. Alright, so this question is about teaching style, and I do a lot of Periscope videos, and so a lot of questions that come to me are related to my teaching style, so I'm excited to kind of tackle this question because there's a lot to it, really, and to be honest, my teaching style is still developing. I'm only just finishing my 3rd year teaching, and I expect that over the next 5 years or so, I am going to just evolve with that definition, or rather, the definition is going to evolve with me. My style is just going to do some changing based on, me and what works for me. So starting off, the last 3 years have taught me a lot, and what I have come to define my teaching style as is what I like to call PT or LT, either one. It's progressive traditional or liberal traditional. It has absolutely nothing to do with politics, I promise you, so just hang tight with me while I try to explain both sides of my teaching style. So just a little bit of background. When I started teaching my very first year, I did not have a mentor teacher. No one was assigned to me to kind of help me out or guide me, and despite that, I did have a lot of coworkers that, were very kind in offering their suggestions and their advice and everything, but largely I kind of decided to stick to myself. I was very focused on what I wanted to see happen, and whether or not those things did happen, it kind of just was very introverted, if you will. It might not have been the smartest thing, and I have since overcome that little barrier, but it did teach me a lot about myself in that very first year. Like I said before, I built my ship and tried to sail it while it was sinking, and so I really had an interesting, we'll just call it that, interesting time figuring out what worked and what didn't, and what things that I could kind of run with and what things that I had to completely toss. So the first side of my teaching style that I have kind of developed is the liberal or progressive style. And so what I mean by this, again, nothing political, but put this side of me in your back pocket. Being a young teacher, I am only 24 and I started teaching when I was 20. I find myself in kinship with these 8 and 9-year-olds that I do teach. I relate to them very well, and sometimes too well, probably to a fault. A lot of teachers in their very first year know that part of the challenge is really drawing that line between authoritative figure and friend. So I had that trouble. I have their nervous tics. I have their attention span. I have their fidgetiness. All of those things that I tell the kids not to do, I feel like I do them. And so I found out that I love to joke around. I love to use sarcasm. I love to talk about Pokemon and Minecraft and all the other video games, and I love to talk about music and sports, and I use laughter as much as I use technology to enhance my lessons in the classroom. And so being a young teacher, I use it to my advantage. I use it to relate to the students on a daily basis. A day does not pass where I do not use the advantage of being young in the classroom to my advantage in order to get them to either focus or pay attention or enjoy something. I will always use that to my advantage, my energy level, to relate to them as students. So again, put that side of me in your back pocket and I will explain the traditional side. My traditional side, I call it traditional, comes largely from my respect for my 5th grade teacher, who I already mentioned. When I got out of 5th grade, I looked back and, I respected her more after I was gone. Even though I held her in a high amount of esteem then, looking back, she was the authoritative, commanding respect, strict but structured figure that I wanted to become. We were in one of those little modular classrooms, like those trailers outside of the elementary school. It was a little cramped, but everything had a place. Everything ran smoothly. She spoke to us kind of like we were little adults. You know, she didn't sugarcoat things, she didn't beat around the bush, she demanded respect from everybody, and everybody gave it to her in return. And seeing something like that and kind of remembering how smoothly everything ran, it made me think, oh my gosh, I want to like weave that into my teaching style. And so, putting those two things together, I knew that I could never walk into a classroom and be just an authoritative figure. I couldn't be like, bam, 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 let's do this and this and this and this and all structure and blah. I couldn't be that way. And I'm not saying that she was either, but I'm just kind of going to the extreme. I could never be that way, although I know that there are some teachers out there who rock that style. And so, again, being young and using it to my advantage, and I made the two clash. And so I have found that I am getting a lot better at kind of walking, tiptoeing that line of knowing what is appropriate for the students and what they can handle in terms of my youthful side or my liberal side, if you will, and knowing when I need to kind of pull back on the reins and enforce that authoritative side of myself as well. So there's my teaching style in a nutshell. I imagine, again, that it will be kind of evolving as I evolve as a teacher, but I have a feeling that even as I get a little bit older and I get a little bit more experienced in the teaching profession, that liberal side of me, that progressive side, that childish side, I have a feeling that it won't exactly change, just because I find that that's the most fun in the classroom for me, and it's worked so far with all of my students to varying degrees. So I'm really pleased with my teaching style so far. So hopefully you guys kind of understood that. I know it's kind of it's a little weird to clash two completely different sides of the spectrum, but there's my teaching style. So I think that a lot of teachers can agree on several of the challenging things about teaching. When somebody asks me what is the most challenging thing about teaching, I have this list of about 50 things that goes through my head. Oh my gosh, which one should I pick? Should I pick the parent? Should I pick the politics? Should I pick this? Should I pick that? Should I pick time management? Should I pick this? It's really crazy. And so to narrow it down, for me personally, the couple things that I think are the most challenging for me about teaching are these two things. Number one, and this isn't as much of a challenge as it used to be. When I first started teaching, I think I mentioned it before, have used my youth to my advantage. Now, at first, it was a severe disadvantage, and looking back, I realized that my ability to kind of relate to the students really led me to cross that line between authoritative figure, teacher, and friend. I didn't mean to do it, but as a first-year teacher, you really want to be liked. You want the students to like you because it gives you the confidence that even though you're having these days where you're like flying by the seat of your pants, you want that reassurance from the people that you see often that you're doing a good job. And so having the students like you was like it's a big concern. And so I don't know of a teacher who has entered the teaching profession without this issue. And it was an issue for me. I crossed that line. I had a hard time really balancing my authority with the fact that I am a youthful person, I suppose. And so I did not, after my first year of teaching, I really did not like the fact that the students saw me more as a friend, and I really worked hard to change that. So like I said, I did not I said this isn't really an issue anymore, but it used to be. So the second thing that still currently is an issue that I keep really working on is balance. I have a very difficult time balancing my school life with my personal life, with my social life, with all of the other facets of life that there is. And so when I get focused on something school related, I can't seem to get off of it really easily. You know, I'm the type of person that will go to school early and think about school. I will think about school during the day, obviously, because that's my job. And I will get home and I will still think about school. And I do feel bad because I do have a fabulous fiance who needs my attention as well, and I'm working, really hard to make sure that I am balancing my personal life with my school life. And I can see over the last 3 years it has gotten better, but I still have a long way to go. I have a long way to go realizing that, okay, not everything at school is going to be perfect. I need to kind of hang that up when I get home and just deal with it another day. School is one of those things where the issues or the successes at your workplace, they're going to be there when you get back, and that is something very difficult for me to still realize. And so I am currently just kind of working on becoming more relaxed and kind of hanging it again, putting it up on the shelf neatly until I need to take it back down. And that is the biggest challenge for me currently, is balance between all of these different parts of my life. I will get it eventually, and I'm sure that it does take years, and just to kind of just find that balance. I am on my way to doing it. I believe I can do it. But yes, those are my two biggest challenges. So this is about to be kind of a shameless plug for a company that I absolutely love and will support probably till the end of my teaching days. But there is one school supply that I definitely cannot live without, and that is my planner. So I admit it, I will go to the end of my teaching days watching YouTube videos about planners and about teachers who create their own planners, and I think it is so cool. You guys are so talented, and I'm unfortunately not that talented, and so I prefer to purchase my planners from a company that I absolutely love, and that is Plum Paper. So this is the school supply that I absolutely cannot live without. My planner basically is a catch-all for everything that I do in the classroom. This is my old planner from this past year, and I've developed my own system of basically figuring out what I have completed and what needs to be rolled over to the different days. So you'll see something like this. It'll be all highlighted and all colored and stuff like that. I'll have arrows pointing and big boxes for different events that we have going on in class. So this planner is really, really awesome. I can't live without it. It also serves as my grade book. Every time I order a Plum Paper planner, I do end up adding about 30 extra checklist pages in the back. So I'll print out my kids' names so I don't have to keep writing them in, and then this will also serve as my grade book. So since that is my last year's one, I have ordered my this year's one for 2016 and 17. And it's really, really nice. The difference between this one and the last one, major difference, is the cover. So you can see that the cover is like really transparent, which is really nice because it lets us see the beautiful colors of the planner. This one reminded me of a butterfly's wing, and so normally I'll go with something like bright and pretty and colorful, but I just really love this kind of like midnight tone here. There's a couple different changes in here, but I already have started putting stuff in my planner. I'm getting to the point where I'm really excited about different kinds of tapes and stickers and stuff like that. So I did a lot of videos, I did 2 videos on comparing 2 different types of planners. If you would like to see those, they're on my YouTube channel. But that is the school supply that I cannot live without. I feel like my students know this too. They're like, Miss Goddard, what would you do without they call it an agenda book. What would you do without your agenda book? And they would, I used to tell them that we would just have recess all day. And they're like, you need to forget your agenda book. And I said, no way. There's no way I could ever lose it. So it was always just really funny having that conversation with them because I think they know that it is a big part of my teaching life as well. So that's what I can't live without, my teacher planner by Plum Paper. And finally, the last question is about some of my other hobbies that don't include teaching. So I definitely would not call teaching a hobby, but it is what I love to do. And we talked about balance already, and part of the balance that I try to have is with my other hobbies. So I have 3 main other hobbies that I like to do. And the first one is reading. I admittedly read a lot of teacher books, but at the same time, I love books like Harry Potter. That will always be a favorite to me. I cannot wait until the next playbook comes out in July. I'm very excited to have that from J.K. Rowling. I've started to read the Lord of the Rings series, which is always very difficult for me to get through because there's so many names that I don't know how to pronounce and it drives me crazy. So I've started listening to the audiobook inside of my car. I really like any books by Sidney Sheldon. Sidney Sheldon is like I guess I would classify him as a mystery author. I'm not really sure though. If you haven't checked him out and you like, basically his books make me feel really smart. It's like a bunch of different like con games and stuff like that. Very strange considering the other 2 books that I just listed, but he's an excellent author. I would definitely check him out. Sorry, my cold is getting the better of me right this second. So I really like reading all of those books. I have a complete list of summer reading, like teacher books, that I'm probably also going to show on YouTube as well. I'm very excited to read those. But yes, reading is something that I don't get an opportunity to do too much during the school year, and so I fully take advantage of the summer. So that's that. The second thing that I absolutely love to do, and this is kind of intermittent, it doesn't happen all the time, but I do compete in pageants and I do judge pageants along with my fiance Nathan, who tends to also judge with me as well. So I am a former Miss Maryland United States, and I've held a couple other titles as well. Miss Maryland Collegiate America in 2012, and then my very first title was Miss College Park 2011. So I really like competing in pageantry, and a lot of people have varying opinions of the pageant world, and I can't necessarily blame them. Sometimes the pageant world invites those not so appealing opinions, but I will support pageantry. I really believe that it is in large part of the reason that I have good speaking skills and that I know how to dress myself. Because before my very first pageant, I swear to all that is holy, I did not know how to dress myself. I didn't know how to speak in front of others. And so I've really taken those pageant experiences and translated them and used them in the classroom and in the interview process and all of that stuff. So I really like competing. I don't have plans to compete again yet. I just gave up my Miss Maryland title in February, and so since I'm starting grad school in September, and pageantry is not exactly the cheapest of things to get involved with, I will probably hold off for a little bit, and I do plan to compete in Mrs. pageants when I am married. I don't have any plans to stop just because I really enjoy it. So I mentioned that I also judge pageants. I don't do this very, very often, but when I do have an opportunity and am invited to judge an actual pageant or like a mock pageant session, then I absolutely love to take those opportunities because it gives me, and it gives, I mean, it's kind of like teaching in a way because I use my expertise and I use, what I've seen that works and what I've seen that doesn't work in order to help somebody who is preparing for their pageant, or even crazier, to select a winner, which is kind of crazy. So being on both sides of the pageant spectrum is also something that I really like to do. And the third thing that I like to do that happens just about on a daily basis, and for anybody who follows me on Instagram, you probably realize this, is that I love to rock climb. My fiance introduced me to rock climbing in almost 2 years ago now, and I have stuck to it. I really enjoy it. It's kind of like a self-motivating thing. Both him and I go together just about every day, and we just climb for 2 hours and, see what we can do, and it often ends in something that is either very frustrating because we just can't reach that next hold, or we're just having an off day or something, or a lot of times it also ends in, oh my gosh, I just did my first, V5 or first V7 or, you know, whatever the climbs are labeled based on their difficulty. So I really enjoy rock climbing. It's how I stay relatively in shape, and during the summer, I think if you follow me on Instagram already, I have started tracking a lot of my fitness stuff. So again, just kind of staying athletic and fit and, you know, active is what I enjoy as my third hobby. Alright guys, so I want to thank you guys for sticking with this video until the end. I really appreciate you visiting my channel. I mentioned in an earlier video that I am looking forward to kind of joining the teacher YouTube community, so this is just kind of my opening video. I plan to do a couple more over the summer and slowly but surely kind of just get into this community. I noticed that there's not a lot of teacher presence here on YouTube, and there are a couple people that have really inspired me to kind of get with the YouTube teacher community. So I watch videos almost every single day. I get inspiration from teachers that are on YouTube. I love sharing ideas, and I cannot wait to be one of those people that shares ideas with you guys. So if you have not already, be sure to follow me on all social media, which is listed in the description box below. I look forward to sharing my ideas, and I hope you learned a little bit about me as a person and me as a teacher. So if I'm somebody that you identify with, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more videos that are coming over the summer. I hope you guys, if you're a teacher, have an excellent summer, and if you are not a teacher, thank you for watching anyway. I do appreciate you coming and clicking on my little channel, and I will see you guys in my next video. Have a great day. Bye!